Right, it did just start. That was a very long queue in there from Google or YouTube. Anyway, hopefully we are on air now. It was showing blank for a while. Welcome everybody to this week's edition of the Inworld Review. This is a program where we scan the hypergrid for everything to do with arts and destinations and, of course, people. For those of you who don't know, the hypergrid is a method that connects together hundreds, maybe a lot more, virtual worlds together. And very similar to Second Life, which you may also remember, except that instead of being a self contained grid, there's a lot of self contained grids and they're all linked via the hypergrid. So a lot more variety out there, so to speak, than the high street. Yeah, we look at all that. My name is Mal Burns, and I'm joined on my right hand side by the right hand man, as it were. He who loves sitting but also fiddling with the knobs. Yes, it's James Outloud.
Well, hello, Mal. I haven't been sitting for quite a while. I've been walking a lot on those, at least on our HG safaris. Walking, walking, and walking. So much walking. But I'm
Well,
glad to be here.
it's little known to you. There's a conspiracy afoot, and it's called "Deprive James of Seating."
Ah, I like it.
But you normally find somebody to sit even the most strangest of places on safari. But
That's
there
right.
again,
That's right.
yeah. If you, any chance of sitting on a safari this week, if you sat on the bus, you sank underwater, and if you sat in one of the racing cars, it threw you out. Yes.
Yep.
Forgot to top up with petrol, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. It's a bit sort of pertinent later. And here next to me on my left hand side, um, a left brain thinker. No, that's I'm trying to think of an anecdote for you. Anyway, it's a lovely co-host, Tosha Tyran. Hi, Tosha.
Hi, Mel. Hi, James. I think we're really going to have fun tonight.
Yeah,
Okay.
we debated whether we should take a week off, but we don't do that, and we don't believe in Eggmas or whatever it's called. So it might be a bit shorter than usual, but we've got a fair old bit here to play with. Now, of course, I made well, basically, I completely forgot to mention on last week's show that in fact midweek just gone by was the return of Safari. I just wasn't sort of thinking. I knew it was coming back in April, but I didn't realise it was going to be this soon. But then, of course, Easter is actually come right at the end of April, whereas it's normally mid-March, if I recall. So very confusing this year. Anyway, we all rolled up on Wednesday at noon Pacific time to the Safari Clubhouse, which is on its own grid these days. And we had two sort of little journeys. So before going to doing anything else, I'm going to move to the old blog posts, and I'm going to start with the order they were published in, actually. This first post, Prince's Maze. Now, this was a visit, basically, not by Safari, but by Zozo on behalf of Safari, so to speak, and just a sort of few pictures here of the Prince's Maze region. There we go. That's quite a nice one, actually. I don't know whether I've actually visited this myself at any point. You do get to the point where things begin to look so familiar. There's of course accompanied by something. Don't quite know what. And oh gosh, there had to be a Trekkie bit in here. That is a very odd shaped whatever it is. The coloured bit in the middle. Anyway, who knows? And yeah, well, that's definitely the Trekkie bit, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So yeah, that was last Saturday. She published that actually. It's the day before we were on this week, and it's the maze grid she went to, and this guy Prince actually was based in OS Grid before it went offline. And for long-term maintenance back in the 4th of March this year, well, that wasn't quite the case actually, because the next post we have was last Sunday while we were on air here, an Easter hunt at a site called Manor, which is Ignis Fatuus. And interestingly, that grid is going to be a destination this week as well. But this was her little thing on the Easter hunt. I love that picture. I mean, it's a coastline
Oh, yeah.
made of a keyboard. It's quite sort of where I've got sort of rocks and sand. It's got black and white keys. Why not?
It's beautiful.
Um, oh, um, Easter hunt at Manor. Why is that picture? Must be a mistake on Thursday's part. It's on her blog. No, nice picture there. And yeah, if as I think, I'll come back in a second. There we are. That's all there is to the pictures. Yeah, Maxwell and Nadir Ray. Okay. So this week on Wednesday, we're going to Sibella, which is by Maxwell on the Ignis. It's got to be the same place. The only other thing I think I did notice a point in one of Thursday's other network blogs this week is I gather Nadia is rather ill, and she was, it's just a post saying we wish her well and recovery. But I'm sure Maxwell will be there for the visit anyway. And yeah, Nadia, of course, was the one who gave a Once Upon a Time talk at the HIE, and yeah, you can see it on the HIE YouTube page, which I won't click on right now because it would disrupt the ones we're looking at. Anyway, the good news is on Tuesday, OS Grid was back.
Yay.
Wow.
Just when we were celebrating some of these things, long-term maintenance, it didn't take much more than a few weeks. But you've got to remember, the maintenance really was to get the grid in shape. It wasn't maintaining its old inventories and everything else like that. Part of the price to be paid is that you log in now and you got to find new clothes for your avatar. You still got your avatar by name. And I think you still got your friends list and things. I haven't double checked it yet. And apparently it was back at the beginning of the week, but they only the open people only started announcing it near the end of the week on the networks and things. But anyway, it was a welcome back, everybody kind of thing. And I guess there was a little celebration, as I mentioned in this. People are turning up to welcome it back, and also busy using the opportunity to try and find their wardrobe again. Can understand if it wasn't too crowded. Most people were probably butt naked. But it certainly did look familiar with that big logo everywhere. And there's a interesting.
The Safari office on OS Grid. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I keep forgetting. Right. Yeah. And so she's telling you how to create your landmark. So yes, it's what it always was. hg.osgrid.org : and they only use 80. They use the whole 8,000 ports, as it were. So you don't need 8002 or anything. Just 80 will do. Why am I trying to look at me? I'm trying to click OK on that box. This is a picture, Mal. Learn. Okay, back to the things. So yeah, she talked to various people there who were obviously at the event as well. So much. Right, so OS Grid back. Let's move on. On Monday, UNA, IARs and OARs. Well, you remember a few weeks ago when OS Grid was down, we got Una Decal Masala to come and sort of explain what was going on and everything else, just for our, peace of mind. And he came on and told us everything. Very good guest he was. And yeah, so what did this was basically a chat with Una. They met up on the HIE region, and so it's going to be a while before we get HIE out of our heads, quite frankly. We'll get to that again in a minute. So yeah, what have we got here? HIE region. There we are. 10th dimension grid. That was I don't know. I've got to go back and search through these. I didn't get. I'm sure I haven't seen all the booths yet, and I don't actually recognise that one. It's not the rocky decoration, um, which makes it stand out. It's amazing what people did with those booths. They had a ceiling.
Mm.
They have 4 walls, 3 walls, a ceiling, and a sort of counter, and they could do anything they wanted with what that. And so some people really came up with very good ways of customizing. Okay, there's Universal again and again. MechLab. And there's a slightly more standard booth there. Bonjour and another one. Yes, posing in front of a lot of booths there, I think. Right, so coming back, moving on again. Thursday, that is this week, right? So we could kind of segue into this week now. And the first stop, I don't know what Furdast Island is actually means, to be honest. But anyway, it's a recent build of Iceland on the Wolf Territories grid. And
Maybe it is Icelandish.
Icelandish.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yes, it was totally outlandish. It was nothing less.
Outlander.
Okay. There were actually several stops, but this was the first one. And it's like a loving creation of Iceland. I'll show you the film I took in a minute. It's not particularly long, and it's a bit samey actually, but a nice build overall for sure. And lovely lighting. That's lovely lighting on that pitch. I imagine it looks like a kind of religious building of some sort. But maybe not.
I'm pretty sure it is, but it looks great.
Yeah, the way it's lit up is, well, yeah. Elon Musk would like that. It looks like it's going to take off. Yeah, doesn't it? It looks like a sort of space shuttle on its side attached to a building. I don't know. I don't know. I keep wondering when Apple's saucer is going to take off. They're the only people that haven't gone to space yet, as far as I know. Yeah, they're close up of the same thing here. And there's the Safari Ground, of course. Right now, that was just landing, and then everybody was put into a bus. In fact, but the first bus apparently went wrong, even though some of us have sat in it quite happily. I think it was something to do with the driver having to be in situ before the passengers get in. I'm not quite sure what happened anyway, but I and a couple of other people on Safari, the bus took off into the sky, which I don't think was quite the idea. And then it flew around a bit, and then it tilted and went crash landing into some water. And we were just stuck in the underwater in the bus. But apparently there was another bus afterwards done properly, and the majority of Safari people actually got on the proper bus. And unfortunately for me, and I think it was Star and somebody else, we had a bit of a job finding where the rest of the lot had gone. Eventually it was the green dots on the map job, I think. Anyway, the buses were not perfect, but it was a nice idea to sort of meet us with a bus, shall we say. And there you are. I see it's a bit up in the air even there, and it certainly doesn't follow its rails. It was a contraption. Thursday was obviously on the safe bus. She got a couple of pictures in. Right. So, yeah, this was, I didn't see this bit. I think that's you, James, actually, isn't it? I didn't see this bus because I was still struggling to stop drowning. But some people got this far. That's a nice T-shirt she made. And yeah, this is sort of a lot of what it looks like on my film. When I said it was a bit samey, I mean, it's a bit, when I see same buildings all in a row, it's a bit like a chorus line of dancers, it can look okay when you see them for a while in a row, the uniformity, but after a while it really gets a bit tedious. You want differences, you want, to see a sort of creative approach to different buildings and things. But I guess Iceland is the way they build it there. There certainly weren't actually houses that I recognised from anywhere else on the hypergrid immediately. So I presume they're custom-made houses for this grid, but couldn't tell for sure. And yeah, there was the bus. Actually, that's well, it's sort of moving. Go there. Look, oh, then it didn't take off. That I don't know where. Yeah, I think. Well, the animated gifs as usual. I seem to remember this. I think we managed to catch up with everybody else by then. Moving along. Bicycles presumably would. I don't know whether that was the one we were stuck on before it landed in the water below, or whether I think all the buses were having a little bit of a problem, like with corners on the road and stuff. How was it for you, James? I have to say,
It was fine. I was fortunate to be on the bus that made it through, and it was a wild ride. It was, yeah, the mechanics of the bus were really difficult, I think, for the drivers to control. But
yeah, and
in general, I like when we can all travel together on a
yeah,
safari, and have chat conversations. So the bus did allow us to get from place to place and converse
yeah.
with the builders.
And I think, yeah, I mean, some buses are quite good that way. I mean, I think it was probably an awkward thing having to have the driver in the bus before the passengers got on. That seemed to have been a key factor. But yeah, no, like you say, it's sort of, I used to love getting in those not hot air balloons and flying things over in the cousin land. Where you had a lot of mainland, there were lots of crossings, but you could actually travel quite a long way in a balloon or aerial such. This is quite interesting. I never knew about this, but this is it resembles Stonehenge. The look of the arches here don't, but I mean, apparently this in Iceland dates back to, it's like their Stonehenge, where it would have been maybe pagan rituals. I wasn't enough there to follow the chat, but basically they've got their own sort of historical circle here.
It's rather impressive, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like the way they
huge.
Yeah.
Arches.
Yeah, and they are actually arches as well. They actually reminds me of the Stargate kind of things. Well, that boring old Stonehenge was, of course, being British, they were rather squared off, two pillars with a straight top, whereas this has got a bit of curviness to it. So, well.
I thought of the moon in the Avatar movies, where it had all the structures, geographic structures that were made by magnetic fields.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I gotta rewatch that. I don't think I've ever, and I got an extended edition. I should watch. Yeah, great movie, and of course, there's a new one coming out this year.
Yep.
And the one after that is coming out very soon after, because they've been filmed.
Yeah, the second one's come out, so I think the third's coming up next.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Way of Water was huge. That edition is very about 3.5 hours, 4 hours. But yeah, I forget the name of it, but certainly looking forward to the next one. Apparently it's a bit darker than the others, because there are sort of avatars who aren't quite like the avatars we met in the first two. But anyway, oh, there it is again. Look, I don't know if people are running to get off before something happens, or no, I think they're actually getting off the bus properly. Oh yes, I remember this, and this was actually a long trek. Right, I had caught up. I hadn't never got caught up with that bus per se, but I actually caught up. I teleported to this point just as everybody was getting off the bus and moving in. So that is actually a very long trek around a mountain to the other side, and actually the mountain's got a sort of volcano on it, and well, people are a bit worried about getting overheated when they arrive at their destination, but that tends to happen when you're in the proximity of a volcano. Nice little river there. Actually, hopefully I've got this on the film here. This is a very nice river because at intervals there are little rock stepping stones of rocks that not all the way, but the river's coming like a river. But if you get to the right place, you can see the stepping stones and walk across. And sheep. Now this was more or less at the end. People were a bit worried that given the behaviour of the bus during the safari, they
Is
were
is
really
is the bus trying to kill the sheep?
Well, that was it.
That was the
Everybody was
fear,
saying it.
right?
That was everybody was saying, "Take those poor sheep. I hope the bus isn't going to plough them down or anything." It really, as vehicles go, it had been a bit of a menace during safari, and I think the sheep survived. I can't be sure of it, but go back and see if they're still there. Maybe. Anyway, that's enough of that one.
Anyways, this looks like a safari in the original sense of the word. We
Hmm.
go out there to kill all the animals we see.
Oh no.
Yeah. Uh, Now, I haven't got much to say about this next safari. It was the second stop of the day. Somebody called Bad, right? It was actually our host, which is where those who managed to nick that headline. Bad driving, but nevertheless, um, not much to show here. It was named a film. It was just like an old racetrack. It's apparently 64 regions
It's huge.
in size.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely huge. And so, of course, everybody got in a vehicle got completely lost. And I suppose, it meant everybody on the safari, all 20 or 30 of us, are probably 100 miles apart from each other. And also, it was so large that you couldn't use your camera to find the green dots or find congregations of people. You were really left to your luck. I found a dinky old car and got in it. And to make things worse, when having chosen a car, you take it and then you res it, but then you have to go to fill it up with gas, and it fills up the tank with gas, but that gas will never get you around the whole circuit. So you have to, when you're on the circuit, you've got to look out for filling stations so you can top up your gas. Basically, if you run out of gas, the car stops. You're left in the middle of nowhere. The car would have
They did that. We went quite a bit of time ago to a motorcycle.
The same
track,
builder,
remember?
the Sons of Anarchy.
The same
Yep.
builders, the same
builder.
people.
Yep.
And they did the same. You had to refuel your engine. If you didn't, you just got stuck. You just had to walk the rest of the way.
Yeah. But this is people posing there at Kelso there as well, posing around. Different cars people got, caravans, and this is sort of the landscape around the beginning of it, really. But once you've got your car and refilled it and got in it, or a motorbike or whatever you chose to get, you're off. And it's just endless racetrack kind of thing. There's nothing, nothing around the next corner except the same sort of pictures. So hello, there's James.
Yep.
So it wasn't really anything to film, and it was, it was jerky too, because it was a far from smooth ride in the car. I mean, my driving is pretty awful anyway, so wobbling from left to right and over the barricade thing and whatever you call it. But yes, it's a magnificent size undertaking, and all these pictures, fortunately, they're near the beginning. There's a built-up area and everything at the beginning, and it's a replica of a motorsports arena, I guess,
in Germany, I believe.
Yeah, was it Germany? Yeah, it wasn't Iceland. Yes, no. I think it is Germany, yeah.
Probably the builders are Germans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. True. So this is the closest. This is the closest you're going to get to video. There's this deft hand at the animated GIF here, basically. You get 7 seconds, to capture a GIF, but I forget what it's.
So called. I drove that car around the complete circuit, and it performed really well. I thought the grid was fantastic, and the cars were not too terrible to control. It was great fun.
Yeah, I've got to admit, actually, I mean, I've been on far worse. I mean, I'm not a good driver. I can't handle corners and things, and I can never match the right speed with what I need for a corner and whatever. I'd be useless driving a car in real life, I think. I did ride a motorcycle when I was younger, but that was a different era completely. Yeah, but how long did it take for you to get round? You wouldn't have got round it in an hour. That 64
No, I
regions.
did the full circuit in about I want to say about 17 minutes.
Oh,
Yep, great fun.
you sure it wasn't a mini circuit inside the big one?
Pretty certain.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I got lost somewhere. I
And I
don't
went
know.
I went I went very fast.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was in
Well,
fifth gear much of the time.
Oh
right.
my God. When I do these racings, so to speak, I can only go in the first or the second gear. If not, within seconds, I'm off the road, off the track.
Which is what's happened to somebody there. Well, actually, I think I think somebody's still riding there. If you were on a motorbike and came off the road, you could run. You know, what's the phrase? Roughshod over the land and get back on track. I don't know whether there's a difference in the amount of fuel that the bikes took compared with cars, but there's another one. Is that Tesla herself driving that thing? Oh, I can't tell.
She has a good choice in cars.
Now that's the car I took.
Oh, the little
Yeah.
MG. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it looked like something out of a sort of a 50s, 30s movie or something. I can imagine, the Hercule Poirot era of cars, and I liked it. So,
Historical racing car.
yeah. And you get to eat them too. I haven't tried racing it since I got it, but I picked up about 4 or 5 of them because you buy them and then for nothing and then fill them up. And that, I should know who that is by now.
Oh, I've forgotten too. I'm sorry. And do you recognize that bus, Mal?
Shaw's. Is that the same bus as on Iceland?
It is indeed. Forrest picked up a copy in Iceland, and that's what she drove around the circuit.
I wonder where that came from. Yeah, I saw that. So she basically picked up a copy in Iceland and then brought it here and raced it instead of one of their own cars.
That's correct.
And then thought she'd drive the bus around. Well, that could have been fun.
It was. It was. Those corners were tight with a car, even tighter with a bus.
Yeah. Yeah, well, with the car, I was going over the barrier all the while and somehow flying, so half turning over and steering back onto the track. And
what I think a lot of people do in racing simulators is they forget to use the brake, and the brake is key to cornering. If you are not good at braking the car, you're not going to make the corners.
Yeah.
Yeah, you forget the brakes when I'm in a real car.
What's that pedal for? Oh no!
I don't think I found the brake. All I found
wasn't there something?
All I found was the up key and the arrow key. Brake? What's that? Anyway, yeah, just so we proved that we weren't totally idle. I will now endeavour to find. Oh. Come on, I've got it here somewhere.
Anyways, I found the name of the racetrack in real life now, and also.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, 8 minutes of it here. Actually, this is Iceland, the one I did manage to film a bit, and yeah, it's really nice. But as I say, it's yeah, it's oh, that's Forest.
No, I joke.
Oh, nice Forest. Sorry, right. Okay, totally confused here. So Forrest was driving a bus again. Yeah, that big ship was actually moving, which is rather odd. Not any great distance, but if you were trying to take a camera shot or something, you realised that it was moving behind you.
It's one of these horrible cruise ships.
Yeah, Queen Mary, a famous one, but there's you can't get in it or anything. It's literally a model. It's not like that giant.
I give me the squeaks when I see them.
Yeah, this volcano seemed out of place, but I guess maybe Iceland. Yeah, actually, Iceland would have volcanoes.
Iceland has a lot of volcanoes. Yeah. Iceland is practically only volcanoes. The whole island is full of volcanoes.
Well, they only have the one here,
and they all have horrible names, very long and practically you cannot pronounce those names.
Yeah, I used to have that problem with German words. You know, they're often very
German
similar.
is easy to pronounce, but
But
Icelandic.
they jam so many words together to make up a big word, and I never could.
You remember some years ago, well, quite a few years ago, that there was a big volcano
Oh
outbreak
yeah.
in Iceland, and that made such big clouds that
Oh,
that the airplanes in the whole region could not land. Not only in Iceland, but in all kinds
All of
of
Europe.
regions around.
Right.
it was.
Yeah, they were all disturbed and could not. And that volcano had a name that was like a whole page long. It
What
was
is what
incredible.
what you reminded me is a forgotten sort of part of the virtual world's history here. There was a conference we held called MetaMeets, and that was the very first one. And Ham Rambler, who's in Dublin, put it on, and with help from a local university and stuff, and lots of guests from all over the place. There, it was a sort of international thing. Um, and Rambler being behind virtual Blarney Stone in Second Life, basically. And Robin Palmer was going to come over and guest, and I was live streaming it. It was really funny because I had access to all the individual cameras in the university auditorium, and
Hmm.
the guys at the university were feeding me, cameras of one stage and different angles and things, and I was relaying it up to live stream, which we were using at the time. As opposed to YouTube and whatever, live stream was the thing back then, and sort of everything sort of at the last minute, all sorts of things were going haywire because you can imagine what it was like having lots of real world cameras. It's like having James having his HUD with several camera positions, but these were all individual cameras in real life in the university. But that was the same time as Iceland had its cloud. And at the very last minute, Robin Harper, for example, couldn't make it. Philip wasn't due to come, but somebody else was due to come. And so I ended up connecting with Robin Harper and some of the Lindens and people in America on webcams, and we were putting that into the mix too. So I was filming Robin Harper, and I was sending that my capture live to the university so that it could be seen by the people at the actual conference. At the same time, I was beaming out that thing to the actual stream. So people watching the stream, you know, it was pretty seamless. One minute they'll be seeing what looked like somebody talking on the stage. The next time it would look like somebody talking on film behind the stage, which is pretty much sort of what ended up happening. But it all happened at the last minute because of that Iceland volcano. The flights couldn't come from, I think somebody's coming from Boston, and then, I think Robin was en route in San Francisco and got stuck somewhere else. And it was a real logistics uh, nightmare, really, but it worked out. I remember it was sadly it didn't work out the next year because the Dutch decided it was their turn, and
I
well,
just put the wonderful name of the volcano in the chat in Discord.
right. I heard
So
it.
try to pronounce it.
I heard the donking noise. It will be
Please
on my
do.
phone.
Please do. Can you say it?
Oh, me? No, I cannot.
Oh my God, a Jaff Jala Wow, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I can do that
Ayafalayakul.
one.
Yeah, I can. Ayafalayakul or something like that.
Right, this I bigger when I said in the film I joined them when they were getting off the bus, so I sort of followed them up this long path. It goes round the edge of the one volcano. I mean, they obviously had to squash a lot of stuff in, so they've got a big volcano. And everyone was saying this was a long trek, which for an avatar I suppose it was, but they're actually going round in a circle, which following the perimeter, and my camera is following them too. Oh, and there's, yeah, another view in the background of that ship, slowly moving. No, she was having a fine old time. Decided to jump in the end. Forget who
The
that is.
destination was worth it, though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yes.
Woof, there we
I'm
are.
really,
You.
I'm really sorry I missed it. You know, because I've been to Iceland quite a few years ago, and it was was like a dream. It was so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is rather no, there's rather a lot of tourism, but at the time I was there, at least I didn't find many tourists, so it was beautiful.
Yeah, I
And
was.
it was
I've never been there.
cold.
Yeah, I know Reykjavik. It's where a lot of government meetings take place and things, international stuff. But I always thought, sort of. I always thought Iceland was the choice for those meetings because it wasn't very populated.
Yeah, but I remember vaguely coming by airplane to the island, and I looking out the window, when the airplane was coming close to land, I thought that airplane will never touch the island because the island's so small.
Uh,
I thought would land somewhere in the water.
when
It looked
I,
like impossible to be able to land there, but it was working out well.
my family used when they were around used to live in the Scilly Isles off Cornwall, and that was well, actually, it's usually a helicopter there, but flying in, they're tiny, and as you get nearer, they got a little bit bigger, but they never got big enough to actually think, where do we land? Help! Where are we going to land?
Yeah.
But sure enough, there was there's only light aircraft and helicopters. They had it down to a T, but a bit
Well,
worrying.
look at the lava streams.
I wonder, did you capture me, Mal?
You?
Yeah.
What, did you find somewhere to sit in the lava or something?
Well, I had on my magic Crocs, my magic Crocs, and so I
Oh,
was
yes,
I went out. I was walking on the lava, and I told everybody it's fine. Come on in.
yeah. You look lovely.
Ah, lovely.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And did you
Get what my
find
get
did
what
they
my
have the hot
spring.
springs too,
No, I didn't
where
see
you could
those.
bathe?
That would have been good, though.
Oh,
Uh,
actually, that's the end of the film. So the answer,
Oh,
James, is
okay.
no. I didn't get you.
All right.
mm.
Right. Okay. Little interviewed here. Couple of short clips about the Rose Gallery #2 on no Rose Gallery. These are Mike, is it McMahon, the guy who does those other films? These are open soon, so
Hmm.
gallery opening eventually when the camera starts moving. It's a gallery called the Rose Gallery, and oh, crumbs, I hope it's on the film because the film I picked up from YouTube when it was published. So, um,
And where is this?
well, that's it. I'm trying to remember
Ah,
what
ah, ah, ah. Okay, sorry.
trying to remember what region grid it was on.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I did not want to put you into the misery.
no, I was just sort of saying that anyway. And of course, it's a
Mm.
slow bit of film. Hopefully, on the end of the film, there'll be some sort of credits. Nicely put together gallery there, I must say.
It's a pretty neat building.
Yeah. And look at that fantastic
What is
piece of
that?
art moving on the screen. It's called Waves. What is that? Oh,
What is that? A flying turtle?
I thought it was like a parrot or something, but no. Oh, yeah, no, it's more like a turtle. Well,
Yeah,
it is art. It could be anything. It's art after all.
it's a flying turtle.
Flying turtle, gosh. Nice, soporific music there. I like it actually. So not being rude. Oh, and there's an avatar playing the piano. I hadn't even noticed that. Ding, 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 ding. And I don't recognise the avatar either, which might have been another clue. If they had a public opening or, a sort of events kind of space, that would be quite nice. That sort of, solitary piano as background music beats having 80s rock on stream. And quite a lot of sound effects from that movie there too. Even louder in the background here, which we have muted, of course, I guess.
I like the ceiling construction of that
Yeah.
building.
So that was number one, and this is Rose Gallery number two. Oh yeah, it's playing slowly but surely. There, yeah, we're talking to the ceiling. You've got quite a lot of it there before the camera moves down. It looks like he's given up playing and he's stood up now. Somehow it looks more full, actually, with this. Maybe this was taken later when some of the more paintings are being hung or something. Oh, in the second room there. Yeah, I'd like to know where it is because it's always nice to pop in and take one's own footage of this sort of stuff. This moves very slowly too, so you really get into the feel of all the little things, the pot plants, and rather interesting as galleries go. There doesn't seem to be any real theme to the actual artworks hanging on the wall. I presume they're not the same person. It's probably just a random selection. Something else I always try and promote. Inworld is a good place to go and look up places to go. But on a lot of the title pages for regions, they can put up a little slideshow, which is always a good. I find that good to look through to get the feel of a region before I teleport there. But also, some of them actually put these panoramic shots up, so it looks like one picture, but you can move your mouse around the photo and you can actually see, a full panorama of the region, or in this case, just a room that would be the gallery. It's a very good way of giving people a teaser for the build without actually, having to teleport over there. Not that teleporting is much of a sweat,
I
but
wonder what those spheres are hanging up in the air.
yeah, I saw them.
Mm.
I'm not sure. Could be dance machines or just art. I saw them earlier on when we were coming in.
Hanging out. Or maybe they are supposed to be lights and they haven't finished them.
Yeah, that, that,
Like the red and the yellow one here.
the foreground when it just went off screen actually it reminded me of a mini version of Jupiter. The texture
Mm.
seemed to be, but I don't know if it's yeah, without actually being there, no way of knowing.
And you
Yeah,
don't know who was the artist of those pictures.
well, I think they're all different artists. I think this is a promo for the actual
Okay.
gallery. But as I said, I don't actually. I just kind of assume when I loaded these earlier that there was a credit. There might be a credit at the end here. There's another 30 seconds to go. So,
Oh, this is interesting. Look at the wall goes across. Is that a wall there in the middle?
uh, oh, I said,
Being in the middle of the carpet. That's rather unusual. Oh, I
I
think
I
really
think, I,
the whole thing is not quite finished yet.
yeah, I think it's part of the carpet. That,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I imagine whoever posted this is it's theirs, and they've just So there's no credits there. That's the end. But it's nice. If I'll try and mention
Yeah.
next week if I can locate where it is. I'm got a
Okay.
feeling if the YouTube page may well have some kind of clue. And I think it was Mike. I can never remember his name. Is it Mike Mahan or something?
McHughes.
McHughes. Yeah, I think the film was done by him. So going to him on YouTube may be a way of getting something.
It would be nice if you'd find out where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Also on YouTube, and this is
My name
actually
is Dorina Burnett. I have been running my own grid called Dorina's World since December.
right, but then you probably didn't hear that, and you won't over my mic. Dorina's World, basically, this is the lady who runs it, and she's recorded this half-hour film, and she's actually talking about it and herself and everything else. It's nice. You know, 30 minutes is. I mean, if we had good fidelity, I might run it, but as you can see, there's a lot of this is AI stuff. You can probably gather, but she's actually talking about Dorina's World a lot. This is some of the art in Dorina's World that she's in. Dorina Verne, I think her name is. The second bit. So some quite nice, obvious imagery there. But yeah, if you look up, well, the film is just called Our Grid. I've renamed it here, Dorina's World, Our Grid, but possibly Dorina or Dorina's World. We'll find it on YouTube for you. I normally like to provide James with lower thirds of all this stuff, but unfortunately, when it's just YouTube films I've grabbed, I tend to rely on the film itself to have the bills in it. That looked like something, didn't it? Oh, no, it's an event. Somebody got his mixing desk outdoors there. And oh yeah, Dorina 1 space Fern. Grid Mama. Okay, so her grid is Dorina's World. So maybe we'll find another use for that or something anyway. But it's on my likes as well, on, as many of these things are on YouTube. You know, if you look at my likes, you'll find I've tagged them there as well. So that was that. One final thing before we get on to our main thing. Last week we had Out of This World on the show, and we didn't actually have this at the time. But this is a film on his site, Out of This World on YouTube, which is just Orion. Hang on a sec, I can't find the. Sorry, I lost my volume switch there, so bring it down. Yeah, it's just another 3-minute film. It's called Orion, and I guess that's the part of his region that he's filming there. Now, as he mentioned last week, the Out of the World Grid visit that we visited and talked about was only one of several different regions he's got. So there's basically some other bits of regions of his are in this film, including UFOs.
There goes Shiro and his family.
Who?
Geo Portal. Being
Oh,
sucked
right,
up into
right.
there.
Yes, yes.
And the credits to Tina Bay there as well at the sort of beginning. Yeah. Good grief! It's a hypergrid. Yes. And pyramids again, slightly different ones.
Quite visionary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And also very, very aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're trying to appeal to you. There she is. And the music as well. I like this sort of. If anybody was listening to the soundtrack in the idle time at HIE, you know, I was trying to play a lot of this sort of ambient music. sort of quite a neutral sound to have playing. Yeah. And henceforth unto the stars we go. Okay. Gina, of course, and I guess it's Gina who did the film in that case.
Mhm.
Right, but it was certainly on his region, or one of his regions, Out of This World Grid. Right, so moving up to the top here. Actually, I'm going to start first of all. Tosha, basically. We decided last week we would look at Hopi, or Hopi Pueblo, I think.
Okay.
We do have a lower third for that. So James will probably stick it up, and which is where you go. Now, this is a build that Tosha has, and she could tell us all about it here on Craft Grid. We have actually been there on a safari, I seem to remember. So I probably got old film of it somewhere, but I went this morning and filmed a load of that. But also, this build was also the topic of Tosh's performance at HIE, which actually took us through the sort of four worlds that the Hopi people believe in. Is probably all I can say.
The creation myth of the Hopi.
Creation myth, yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought if I grab that, this is of course filmed by James too, so we're all mixed up here. This was I remember cueing the music for this. This was the introduction for us. We're not here to play all of this actually, so. Gigantes. I think it's more of the introduction than. Let me see. Okay, yeah, and I think basically the moment Tosha wanders onto the stage, I was cued to hit the music, and she in turn was hitting something else completely, as you're about to see. So, moderate. Here she comes, superstar herself, all very animated.
Tosha Tyran superstar.
Yeah, and bang, nearly, not quite, in a minute. Bang, and then woof, everybody's gone, and that is where they've gone to. So there's actually four different worlds here, and you take them, don't you, Tosha, through the thing. Do you want to? I actually on this version, I was actually still downstairs. I didn't get TP'd up because I exempted my staff, but I was actually reading in the English group the English translation that was playing, and that was the first time I'd read the English translation, so I actually got quite a lot out of reading the card down there. But maybe you'd like to tell us, well, we're not going to run the whole thing, but this was the first world, isn't it? So what was going on here, Tosh?
Well, according to the Hopi myth, the creation took place in difference to most known creation myths that start somewhere in the sky. The Hopi started way underground in one golden cave, and they lived there for quite a while, and then they lived well with each other and with the animals and all, and then they got into fighting, and their Sotuknang, that was the one that was sent to them to fix up their worlds. He decided that this world was going to be destroyed, and he saved all the people that were willing to go with him, and it destroyed this first world, and then the people came to the second world that was all in silver and blue, and there they lived very well, even though now the animals were kind of wild and savage all around them. And I'm going now faster than the whole thing. You can stop this in a while. And after a while, it started again. The people were fighting among each other and had problems with the animals. And then Sotukdang decided to destroy also that world, the silver world, and he created a new world in copper and red. And
So this is second world. So yeah.
this is the second world, yes. And in the meantime, they sent the people to the ants to live with the ants, and living with the ants, they learned to collect food and keep it, like the ants do. They collect food and have it for later times, for bad times, and then they came out again. And this is the third world, a copper and red world, and the next world is the first one that is under this sky. And in each world, they learned new things. In the first world, they learned to make
Oh,
some things and everything. And this now is on the fourth world where they live, and everybody lives now in the fourth world, according to the Hopi beliefs. We all live in the fourth world, and the Hopi live there in the mountains, in the arid mountains of Arizona in real life. So, and this is a little bit telling the story of the colonization by the Spanish. And the thing is that the Hopi are the only natives in what is known now as the USA that ever defeated the colonizers. They threw out the Spanish.
right on.
And yeah, que vivan los Hopi. and
Any
they live
chance they
practically.
could? Any chance they could? Any chance they could round up a whole gang of them and take out Trump?
Oh, oh, well, the
Sorry,
thing is that the Hopi live, they really are rather poor, and the
yeah,
region where they live, they're very self-sufficient because it is very arid, very dry, but yet they grow all kinds of plants and they, feed themselves. They make their houses and everything. Well, now they have also a little bit of tourism, whereas I hope or think not too much. But it is really surprising that they are so self-sufficient there in this dry and poor region. But because of that being so, the Spanish did not come back because they were defeated, and the Americans did not have special interest because there was nothing to gain.
yeah.
No gold, no silver, no land that the American
That's
colonizers
no
would
darn
like.
desert. That's the darn desert.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and according to the Hopi myth and the Hopi wise men, this fourth world is coming to an end now too.
Right.
Nobody knows when, but an
And
end.
is there any kind of prediction for the fifth world or whatever?
Yes, they are. They are, but I don't want to repeat them all. I have to go look for them. There are predictions about atomic war and about climate change and everything that you can imagine as disasters for now. You can practically read them in the predictions of the wise of the Hopi. Now, all these predictions, no matter who made them, you can always put everything you want into them a little bit.
Yeah.
It's always a thing. Well,
There's another. Oh, God, my mind's gone blank. There's another famous person who predicted things, and people, sort of interpret modern age things as
yeah.
predicted by them. It's down to the interpretation of sort of abstract words in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, and and and
Curious.
you can read almost everything into it that you want, and interpret it the way you want. But what I think is beautiful is that, well, or really remarkable is that the Hopi really defeated the Spanish and threw them out of their country, and that is really, I think, remarkable. Everything else, well,
Yeah.
you can want to believe it or not, but that I think is really remarkable, because they really are the only ones that ever defeated their
We'll see this again in a minute too, but this is
occupiers.
the only shot that's got that underground bit. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, this is going down
Yeah,
now.
and this underground things are the kiva. They are like holy places and places of reunions for the Hopi, and they have them in all their pueblos, all their villages, as a remembrance of where they come from deep down.
Exactly. So it's correlation between the starting point and
Yes,
having
yes,
the underground bit.
and these figures that you see everywhere, the striped ones and all these strange things that obviously are not avatars, they are kachina, a kachina. They are like religious dolls for the Hopi. They make them, and in real life also, and they're very traditional. They're carved of wood and then made with all kinds of things, and they're sort of intermediaries. Is that right?
Intermediary.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah, between the
Oh,
living and the
yeah.
dead,
Okay, yeah.
and between them and their gods. They have a whole range of gods.
Right. We'll see.
And
Okay, we'll see a bit more of this next. Actually,
yeah,
this film anyway. If you go to YouTube and look up HIE, is it what's the name of the YouTube channel? HIE Open
I've got a lower
Cinema.
third of it up, Mel. It's
Oh,
at
right. Okay.
HIE Expo, all one word, no spaces.
Right. Okay.
okay.
So all the events from the expo are actually there. So we'll plug that too.
And
And you can see the whole 20 minutes that we've been showing here now. But also, what I did today, and here we're starting it up now. This is some film about 10 minutes that I took this morning, which is in the actual region, not HIE, but in the craft region. And of course, the very characters you were just describing, you'll see in this film too, sort of close up, really.
yes, those are two old women conversing next to the well.
And a pussycat looking on.
Yes. And
Yeah,
here
so
you actually can see in the different houses all the different things that the Hopi make. They're weaving carpets, and they're making bread, and a special bread because they make bread of maize and of corn, and they grow blue corn, and so the bread is also blue that they make, and they make beautiful ceramics, pots and
ceramics, yeah.
plates and all ceramics, yes, and what else? And silver, all kinds of jewelry with silver, and then these
Katrina,
Those are these
the
wooden
the figurines.
figures,
Yeah,
yes.
right.
And those figures in real life, they have had some auctions, whereas the Hopis protested a lot, and I think some of them they got back to them. They were sold at astronomical prices, like I don't know, $200,000 a piece or something like
course.
that. Really, yeah, because they're really so rare and such a beautiful thing to make. And what is special about the Hopi houses is that they don't have stairs inside. They have ladders outside. That
Right.
saves them. They live in houses in groups together, not in families, but in groups, bigger groups. And on the outside they have ladders, which is a wonderful way to save space inside the house, if you have the ladders on the outside. And it might be also that if somebody comes with ill will, you pull up the ladders and they don't get up there.
Well, it's like the old fort thing.
Yeah.
fortifications. There was no way in except ladders.
yeah,
Took the ladders
but
away.
I think the main motivation is that you have more place inside, because the building of these houses they're made out of adobe, this
Right.
bricks, and that must be a lot of work by itself. And so, yeah, that's a map of the real region where that is.
Yes.
And the Hopi used to be there used to be very many of them, and they occupied a huge, large area. And that the Americans changed. They put them into a little area.
Reservation. Yeah.
Yeah, well, reservation, something like that. Yeah.
Prison, maybe, but
Uh,
less said on that front, the better. What's a reservation? It's everything with walls around it, but
but they have, through their isolation, they have saved a lot of their old customs and their old way of living and their old way of building and their old way of, making art and making things. That is a bit of a fortune for them, or maybe more fortune for us. I'm not sure.
is this build a fairly good replica of the way they are still today?
I did not understand your question.
Well, when I go into these buildings, they look surprisingly modern. Despite the cultural side of it. Do they do they live like this now, as well as it being their traditional ways? Is this encampment?
Well, it is difficult to say because with their own private space, as I understand it, they're
Yeah,
really very private. They don't let people go in. And now it's even more so. You're not allowed to photograph in the villages anymore. You're for sure not allowed to look into the windows or into the doors. So I had to imagine. I had to take what I saw of old pictures, but I imagine that the people don't live anymore like in these old pictures. So I kind of modernized them. That was my making of it.
yeah, I thought
So,
so. Yeah, it's sort of I love the tent inside as well.
oh, well, kids like things like
Hello,
that, and
hello,
cats,
pussy. Yes, hello, pretty cat.
kids and cats, and so I just try to express a feeling of it, that they have a lot of traditional ways, but also, of course, modern ways to live. And there are still towns, a couple of them, these little villages, that they don't have electricity and they don't have running water. So they are in different degrees, and some of them have everything.
Right.
So just take it as a mix of my imagination. Oh, and this is the story. This is a girl that I told a story about. Well, I read a story about. She was in love with the sun, which is a god also, and she always wanted to be out there with the sun, and then there came some rain, and it rained and rained and rained and no sun. And this little girl, I don't remember her name now, she got really ill, and because she was missing her lover so much. And so her grandmother always talked with her and said, well, you have to live, girl, and don't be sad, and the sun, he will come out again, and like that. And in the end, of course, the sun came again, but the girl was so weak that she could just walk to the next cornfield, and there she died. And where she died, a sunflower
Uh-huh.
sprung out of the ground. And since then, the Hopi use the sunflowers a lot. They have it everywhere, and around their cornfields a lot. They have sunflowers. So
It's a sacred thing. Oh, and there is one right there.
yeah. and and yeah, and here these plates, and these are all like original designs of the Hopi that I found in, I don't know,
I
somewhere in the
came
internet, in things, the pictures and the carpets
I was
and the
thinking, well,
plates.
back many years ago, the 70s, when I was in Arizona, I came back. While I was there, I got a carpet. The one hanging on the wall reminded me of it. The trouble is, I
Mm.
can't remember. I think the carpet came from Mexico, so I don't think it was a local. It might have been local to Arizona. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they all have a certain likeliness, of the whole region of the indigenous designs,
Now, here
and
we've got a really big array of the dancers around the. I can't,
yeah,
what's the name of
yeah,
the underground thing again?
kiva,
Because you're talking about the avatars and the way they dress.
kachina are these wooden dolls, and kiva is
Yeah,
the
there we are.
underground place, and it is nowadays used for the population, the elders, for example, when they before they make decisions. But they also have religious ceremonies down there, and all kinds of things, and the whole population meets down there, and like that.
A bit of a tight squeeze, I think. But I love the decorations there, the old carvings on the wall and stuff. That's a nice touch to the build there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
in
go
fact,
down
hard
there
to
to
imagine.
smoke.
Yes, I know. Hard to imagine the whole village down there,
Right.
actually. Especially if they have the pipe lit, that will
Yep.
be coughing and spluttering. Oh, and of course, this is, of course, in this build, you've got some other buildings that are actually way up in the mountain. Well, not that far, but I mean, sort of, it's not all just the ground level
Yeah,
thing.
well, I just put them because the mountains looked so empty.
Oh, yes, true. Okay, fair enough. Well, I'm sure if they could get up there, they would have used it. And it's funny because, of course, the surround that you've got on this region um, is seems very familiar, but the textures on the surround are different. But of course, when you did the build at HIE, you had the similar sort of thing with the four different textures for each world. There was a sort of commonality, but a major difference at the same time. Oh, shut up, thing.
Well, actually, the mountains around there are, what do you call them? Some around, these kind of prims that you can use, and I
Oh,
changed the texture a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah. I've got some of them. I'm trying to choose one to
Mm,
put down around the studio
mm.
here, actually, to expand it. But yeah. No, oh gosh, golly, that's the end of it. That's a nice picture. Oh, I remember pausing the film there on the last shot. I just like the foliage there and stuff. So that is great. That is we did do a safari trip there. I couldn't actually find. I probably could have found it if I
I
needed
don't
to.
remember a safari trip there. What I do
No.
remember is that we had that I had a big opening there with Terry Terry Tara Merriam
Oh,
making a big event out of it with some other people, dancers and all that. But if safari, I don't, at least I don't remember. It could be, but I don't
I
remember.
definitely remember going there at some point, and it wasn't a quick visit. So it was like. Or something very similar. And I think I remember filming, but yeah. But so
What I
it's
what
worth
I can tell you is that it was beautiful building this area, because
yeah.
before I started, I had been reading a lot about it, a lot about the Hopi history, about their cultural things, about their costumes and all that. And the more I built, the more I read about it, and that was very gratifying. It was really beautiful.
I'm sorry. So much for turning off. I thought I had some pretty pictures behind us while we're talking. The sound came on, but now it's gone. Yeah. Um, right. Well, I'm just looking at what I've got here. I think we've sort of covered just about. Oh no, I know one thing we haven't covered yet. We featured all the Safari bills, but also HIE OpenSim has its own blog that Tosha operates, and let's see, Viva subtitles. Let me just pull out again from this. Oh, wrong. No, that's right. There we are. So yeah, basically, the blog is actually talking about the work we put into all the subtitles and the way it's sort of done there. The unique thing we do there, basically. And yes, nobody involved in that. And Lux, did I see Lux here somewhere? Yeah, there we are, Lux. Certainly, when I was looking at the English subtitles, he or she, is that she or he? I'm not quite sure. Was actually doing those ones.
Lux is female.
Yeah, I thought she looked female. So yeah, this is an example. If you join the groups to, once you're in the group for your own language, you got subtitles in your language while the events were on. And the narrator, so to speak, was very often Lux here. Snowy there, again, part of the background stuff. That's an example of people in the Spanish group. What was on stage, I don't know at that particular moment, but let's say it was the French, then the people in the audience could hear French. But if they were in English or Dutch or one of the other groups, like Spanish here, they would get the translation simultaneously at the same time. It wasn't word for word translation because basically the rhythm and the number of words varies so much, but basically each speaker gave a synopsis beforehand that was able to be read out or typed out, I should say, what was going on. And yeah, oh yes, actually, this is when Tosha was speaking. Looky here. Right, we can't get rid of you, can we, Tosh?
Can't get rid of me. Well, I was subtitling also.
Yeah, of course you are.
And
Yeah.
and before subtitling, I did part of the translations too. But I tell you, I liked that very much. It was a lot of work, and it was also some stressy moments at the subtitling, but it was also very, very beautiful because you were forced to listen very closely to what was being said on stage. So once you caught the rhythm, it
Yeah.
was easier the subtitling, and you caught practically more of the talk than if you were just sitting there and looking. I think I really liked that a
Yeah.
lot, but it also gave some stressy moments. Oh,
And as I said, actually, when you took everybody else up into the sky, I was busy in the English group reading the English commentary. And,
yeah.
I thought it was great because I'd obviously been up with you before to the sky. I mean, so it
Mm.
wasn't essential I joined the crowd. And yeah, just as you say, it enhances the whole experience because you can pick up a lot from the personality of the person reading and slides and things, and of course the shows. But
Yeah, and
to have that
also
running commentary in your own language is
yeah, and also while you are translating, of course, you're
yeah,
forced to read the text very closely. And then, even though nowadays the artificial intelligence does most of the translating, you have to repass it all to take out mistakes and,
yeah,
wrong things. And so you get a lot of what the talkers or the artists or the presenters presented there. I really thought it was a really very cool way to work with the HIE, and I still have all the text on my computer still, and I will not erase them either, delete them,
It's worth keeping
because
around.
I think they are worth to be read again and again. And some that I did not understand there at the event by itself, but I can try to understand them when I read them with time um, on my computer, and that is something nobody else can do, you know.
Yeah, of
So I'm
course.
very glad I have these things also.
Yeah,
And but at the same time, what I wanted to say, I don't know if this is the right moment for it,
yeah. I
but
remember you were going to. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say that these films that you can see now on YouTube, they are so great and so wonderful made, and I think that James and his crew, I don't know who else, Petlov I think was that too, and I
Yeah,
don't
and
know who
Sophie,
else.
Sophie
Sophie. Yeah,
Ah,
Supermarine.
yeah.
Yep.
Sophie Supermarine. They did such a great job. You know, it is fun to watch all these little movie clips, and well, each one about 20 minutes. And I've been watching them various times, really all of them. And the music, very cool with it, and the text. I mean, really, you did such a wonderful job with that. I just think that cannot be said often enough.
Oh well, thank
So,
you, Tasha. It's my
the-
pleasure to do it. I enjoy it, and it's really fun to be able to use my skills to do something that people appreciate.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I think, well, I
yeah.
had my family here this weekend, and I saw about, I don't know, many of these, not all of them, but
Hmm.
many of those little YouTube movies together with my family, and they were thrilled, all of them, with all of the movies, you know, even
Yay!
though they have no idea about what um open sims or about avatars, and in the first
Right.
moment I said, okay, what is this, but then after a while they got really captured, and they
Yeah.
just loved it.
The
There was a
cartoons.
similar
It's the
thing.
cartoons.
A similar thing that did this. It's a few months ago now. I visited a couple of old friends, not that far away, but far enough. Um, and they had a Fire TV stick. You know, they weren't particularly into the web or anything else, but he in particular, he liked his YouTube on the Fire TV. So you know, he didn't know much about it. All he knew is he had the stick and YouTube. And I said, look at Mel Burns' Metal World on YouTube, and
Mm.
of course, saw one of these one of our shows, and sort of his wife's son is sort of looked round in a bit of a sort of, is that you? Because of my voice.
Yeah, yeah,
Like totally, it started off being a thing of curiosity, so to a point where she couldn't keep her eyes off the damn thing. And I thought that was telling in a way. It was so sweet as well. But well, the final HIE blog post, anyway, there might be another one. Anyway, it was on Thursday when Sezraji gave an insight into what Kelso had been doing with keyframes, which I for a while was called puppeteering. I mean, there's different methods. Um, it's one method that basically allowed, you probably saw it on some of the clips, avatars to actually come onto the stage fully animated following a particular path. And then when they were finished, they would turn around and the moderator would sit down while the speaker came on. And a kind of rhythm to it, which meant that sort of behind the scenes, basically, Kelso had to, instead of me cueing the other performer to come on stage, Kelso would tell them to get on the pad.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
actually, there's a lovely French expression, but I forget what it is. But I took to it. Um, and then they would come on, and sort of it meant the whole thing had this sort of lively. I always used to call it pathfinding, but uh, it meant each different avatar who was coming on stage, be it a moderator or a presenter, had chosen animations that they would be wearing, and they would wear them, and then they'd practice it using an NPC. And come the real day, there were no NPCs. I mean, the real avatar just stood on a pad and behind the scenes, Kelso would trigger them to actually come round the back and move onto the stage. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
was quite amazing what he did.
yeah, you
But
can't really get the idea from, but it says his pictures here give a bit of the idea. This actually is not puppeteering. This is actually one of the presenters has already arrived there and he's wearing his own animation. In fact, I tell you, that's an old picture. Look, I know that that wasn't this year at all.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
it gives you the right idea. Um, okay, that's Kelso backstage. Oh, these are pictures, I believe, of the different heads-up displays that he used. The guys who run Inworld, actually, you can do have a number of scripts. One's called SF scripts and things like that, which are the basis of what he was using. Um, and he would actually, at sometimes, as he was saying it, just as I have multiple sound sources on my screen, he had multiple HUDs, for different people on his screen.
yes,
The
yes,
little blue boxes you see there, each of those four could quite possibly be the controlling HUD for a completely different avatar. So he had to go from, he had like whole sequences of movement for people, just as I might have had
yeah,
sequences of music.
yeah.
That was your moderator, or was it? Yes, she was. Yeah. And here again, she's been on the pad. When she finished talking, she's a moderator, so she finishes talking, and then Kelso takes her and gets her to sit on her seat. And at that moment, and at the round here, the presenters would actually come on. This again is the presenters having already come on and animated while they're talking. Um, how much of the animation while they're talking Kelso set up, and how much they let their own animations take over? I think that did
No,
vary.
no, 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 no. As long as they're on the pad, as long as they're
Yeah.
on the way, all the presenters were standing on one pad, and the animation was inside the pad, of course,
Oh
and
right. Okay.
they kept it up, So it
Right.
was, they stripped their own animations, their AOs, they stripped, and the animation of the pad took over. But
All except for the lips, though. That was still on
oh
the
yeah,
presenters. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And the other thing is that Kelso had a meeting with each one of them to see what kind of animations they wanted. So
That's
he
on.
did not just make some animations for all of them, but he was very personal, the whole thing.
Yeah. That's what I was
So
actually
they
pointing
could
out.
decide which way they wanted to sit and which way they wanted to stand and which way to move their hands while
Basically,
talking and all
the
that.
animation was in the pad, but
Yes,
it was still a personal animation that they'd chosen. So yeah, it's
yes,
odd,
yes.
odd, really,
So
isn't
it
it?
was a
This
really
is
big job,
Yeah,
and
this is
it
one
took.
of the best sequences because this was the opening session with the M on the left there still standing,
Yeah,
and these were actually all the moderators. So this
yeah,
actually involved bringing 5 avatars on using the same system and sitting in different things, and also, of course, when they leave, it's the same thing. They trot it off. There's one
and
scene that reminded me of the cover of Abbey Road, actually.
and what I thought was very funny, which you cannot see on this little clip here, is that when all the moderators, the presenters, well, I
Yeah,
don't know, the first ones that came in, then
moderators.
M was the first one to come in, and he sort of made a step to the side and let everybody pass, and then he just never sat down. He just stood there to talk
Yeah,
immediately.
yeah.
So
And it
polite.
was so cool.
Yep.
I just really, every time I look at it, I have to laugh about that.
It was cool, and it was wonderful for filmmakers, for camera people, because the
Yes,
avatars were right where we expected them. They didn't turn their
yes,
back to the camera. It was
yes,
wonderful.
yes, yes,
Yeah, it's actually perfect movement for a non-moving camera too. I mean, I know this is a gift from Tosha, but that could equally be a video shot where the camera is static, but you get full movement. You know, there's enough movement there so you don't complain that it's just a still camera.
Yeah.
For a short while.
Even now, every avatar is still on one pad, except that the pad is invisible now.
Yeah, great
So
stuff.
it was really such a cool idea also of
But
Kelso, and he
this kind
spent
of
weeks and weeks on this
Yep.
work.
Yep.
yes, I mean for weeks and weeks, you say it because I was logged in for an awful long time beforehand, and
Yeah,
Kelso always seemed to be logged in. So not actually in the main arena, but somewhere doing stuff on
yeah, yeah.
Kelso's
And he
thing.
had about 4 or 5 platforms high up in the sky
Yeah,
above this one where he had and and every presenter had his own platform that was identical to this one on the ground where they could probe their things and test their
rehearse.
things that they were going to do. So it was a really really good organization, and the most part of this kind part of the organization was in Kelso Sand, and he did
But that's the
really.
final picture here is Kelso himself, and of course the other thing
Yeah.
is Kelso is basically German, isn't he? So you
No, he's Canadian.
oh well, since he speaks German well enough.
Yes,
Yeah,
he has
I knew I should have known that.
spent some
And
years in
French.
Germany,
Yep.
and he's French Canadian.
Yeah,
His maternal language is French,
right.
and English is sort of his second language, and German he speaks because he
Yeah.
finished his university studies in
Ah,
Germany.
right. Wow.
Yeah, so he's
Okay,
was
so yeah, this gives you all a hint of sort of stuff going on
yeah.
behind the scenes there. I imagine Thursday might actually publish a couple more on the HIE Open Sim blog. I don't know, maybe a final one on the booths and stuff like that. We'll wait and see. But the booths, which are also major, the hundreds of these well, over 100, I should say, of these booths
Mm,
scattered around the park. I think it's
130, I think they are together.
130, yeah, and they take a
Mm,
long while to get around, so it's well worth you
yeah,
actually
yeah,
teleporting into the region while it's still there,
yeah.
which I think it's got probably another month to go yet, and then having a good
I
look at
think so. Yeah,
they're
few
not
months.
only some of them are real arty experience to see what people have done with the booths they've taken, but also, of
Yeah,
course, a lot of people are giving freebies away and things like that. So if you don't look around and go to the booths, you're going to miss
yeah,
out on these
yeah.
things.
That's true. That's true. Well, I'm always full of awe for all the things that other people did there. Because there was so much work involved in this, and so much organization in this HIE. I
Yeah,
know myself, I worked a lot, but I cannot even imagine the amount of work others put in there,
I
like
suppose so.
you, um, Mel, or like you, James, or like Petlov, or like so many others,
Yep.
and
Right.
Sirsa, not even to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think she was at that time the preparation time of the HIA. HIE. She was there 724. I mean, really, it
Wonderful,
was
wonderful stuff. Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah. I bet
So it
she's.
was a lot of work, but it was a lot of worth too.
Yeah, she's still plugging away, but I get the impression she must. Most of us probably felt like collapsing at the end of it, but it's
Well,
well done for everybody,
I,
really.
I really collapsed after the HIE was over. I just got into bed and I slept about like seriously. I said I will sleep for a week
Yeah.
after the HIE was over, and I think I slept for a week.
Oh, why not? Why not? As long
Mm.
as it's over. Okay, well, I've got the Safari Roundup thing. What I should be said coming up. Coming up, actually, is what I should say next week. Next week, right? But it's we got that picture, but the Safari is a better picture, isn't it? Okay, so Safari is back on, and the second one of the season will be at midday, noon Pacific time on the HG Safari grid called HG Safari, oddly enough. And I've got a heads up on destinations here. On destination one is going to be a region called Magic Land, which is a fun fair Oh, there's a twister for you. Fun
Okay.
Fair by Stone Lunacy. And that's Magic Land's actually on the Neverworld grid. And
Okay.
Destination 2 is Sybella, that's Sybella. And this is another outstanding fantasy landscape by Maxwell, and that's on the Ignis Fatuus grid. And I think that's the one we actually saw in Thursday's blog from a week ago, which was unrelated to Safari, but I think it's the same destination. So
Mhm.
they should be good. A bit of magic in both of them, I think. If well, fantasy and magic certainly
And,
seem to be the underlying themes there.
and in the very end, we should not forget the upcoming event in Craft in the Museum of the Metaverse, which is on the 25th of April.
Yeah, I have the picture again. Yeah, we covered this last week, but basically it's a reopening where they've got two or three of the
Yeah,
artists each week. Now they
yeah,
didn't have one this Friday because of the seasonal holiday, but back this coming Friday with Tyran Merham,
Maryham, yeah,
Rage Darkstone, and a favourite of mine, Ever Cry. And on
yeah.
May the 9th, we have Mellow Manitor, somebody called Tosha Tyran again.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, it's spelled Tyron, by the way. I think there's a bit of a goof there.
I ran, that is the
Venus
A in the
Adored,
end.
Venus Adored, Cap Ragu, and Olivia Corabase. Daco Monday and Tina Bray and Sergi Zarf are on 16th. 23rd is Bohemia Love, Velasquez Bonetto, if I never get that pronunciation right, and Laura Antici, who I don't even know.
Antiki.
Right. May
Antiki.
30th, Giacomo Maroni, Art Blue, and Kisma Ridling. And June the 6th, Duno Grant, Pat Babby, Bruno Cobbs, Saboni. I should have you reading this out. And
Mhm.
June 13th, Gianna Spada, Isirana Oxymoxy, and Enrico Badu. That's you can tell from that list. There's a lot of artists involved, and the original exhibition opened, and how many artists is that? 30 or something, or
Yeah,
maybe
something
like
like
that
that.
many. And it had them all at once, and it was a cacophony really. So we're in reopening they decided, well, the exhibition's there, but there'll be a sort of an open view, as it were,
Yes, yes.
every Friday, featuring three different changing artists. And we saw last week. I went to the first one, and the one coming up this week with Evercry and Terror, I will probably pop along and get a bit of film. But we did, as you saw last week, film the whole region. So we've got sort of we can chop into that, so to speak, to get some film out for each of them. And the film we actually showed last week was by far complete. Where I was showing highlights from
Mm,
a much longer
mm.
bits of film. So we'll be covering this a little bit more. And the address you'll see on the bottom of the slide there, Craft World hyphen between Craft World and World.org colon 8002 slash UQBAR UQBAR slash
Oop,
625 slash 766 slash 23. Now you can say it all again in the right pronunciation.
Very good.
Right, now we haven't quite finished with Graph Grid there, actually. We also have Cafinia, at least one blog a week we're getting here by the sound of it. This, I think, translated into English. Oh, yeah, you can choose whether it's English or not, basically. So Lorenzo writing here on April 14th, talking about a craft village in Neulab 2, which has been rebuilt by Tonino Lane, aka Antonio Lara. And well,
Raya.
so I'll let you interpret this if you need to. Yeah, that's actually this little craft village that has been there before and it's been rebuilt. And that's a good advertise. It could almost be a photo, couldn't it?
Yeah.
And a little bit about the rebuild there. I don't think no, this is a different blog. I can't get to the pictures easily.
Oh, I
But
remember we were there. There we definitely were on a safari in the craft village.
yeah,
We're
uh,
definitely there. Those are, you know,
the
all
original.
kinds of craftsmanship of old times, and
Yeah.
yeah, we were definitely there. I remember that very well.
So this is the rebuild Noi Lab 2
Mm.
on the cover, detail of an artisan village. Okay, that's just now. So it's a special corner of craft world that's truly a sight to behold. Owned and built by Tonino Lane, it's a true celebration of craftsmanship, both ancient and modern. A unique experience, especially in the craft world open sim, where the real hands that make it visible and a livable world are just keyboard gestures. Well, I don't know about it. I think there's a bit more to it than that, but yeah. Yeah, I do remember going to the original one of this too. So, from wheat to flour in the miller's workshop, and craftsman virtual, well, supporting renewable energy, so production techniques being reconstructed there. Integrating ancient artisan crafts with contemporary pursuits of energy conservation, fostering a harmonious relationship with our planet, and unparalleled fusion of tradition, innovation, etc., etc., and as found in Sergei's Arthur, valuable divulgator. What on earth is a divulgator? I don't know. It's translation, I think. Yeah, the bicycle powered grinders and everything else, and little video there too. Let's see what we got there. Okay.
Well, that's practically what the whole place is about. You know.
Oops. Something went wrong there. Right. I've got to find the thing to stop it. This is the problem when you're playing videos inside web pages. They take on a mind of their own. I know what I will do while I'm at it. I will grab a copy of this. Well, what I think is I might actually, if I actually go there and do a bit of filming it out, we can feature it next week, and I'll grab a copy of that. This actual film as well, if I can. Oh yeah, there we are. Right, and then we come back. There we are. There we are. Back to where we should be. Yeah. Okay. So with that, I think we are finished. I've announced the destinations for Safari this week. The forthcoming Unquiet World, as I call it. Anyway, it's actually apparently my translation of that is wrong, but it's something very similar. And yeah, that's about it. And then the Craft Village. Yeah. I'll definitely pop down there to film that. So, guys, anything else either of you got to contribute before we start the grand roundup?
Well, I was just wondering, do we share the link to the Discord channel for HG Safari? Because that's the place to see the upcoming events and click to get a reminder.
I'm pretty sure we do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, actually, I am constantly getting people asking to join it.
Okay.
And, so it usually says it's already done it. But
Okay. Well, I built a lower third for that, so I'll just put that up now. There's a join link for the Discord server in Discord, and you can see the announcements of upcoming safaris and also the information while you're safaring. Sometimes that can be a back channel if you're having difficulty joining the safari.
And I'm pretty sure Obviously, on my feeds, I actually include also there's links to blogs and stuff like that. But I think there's actually a feed to blogs in there somewhere as well. Well, to the HIE blog anyway.
Right, right.
So rather than go to the blog site, you can actually look in the Discord channel and get a summary of each of the posts and then follow the post. I think that's the case anyway, but it's well worth joining anyway. And there's a Hypergrid Safari Discord channel as well, but apart from republishing the blogs, I don't think there's that much on it. I mean, obviously, HIE being a special event meant there was an awful lot to talk about and publicise. So, although it's getting quiet again for another year, one hopes. Back again in a year's time. Yeah. So I think that's it. Tosha, anything else?
Nope.
This
Really,
week?
I talked enough for tonight.
Yeah, I know. It sort of gets to be like that in the end. I was feeling a bit dizzy when I came on there, but I seem to have got over that. Talking non-stop, basically. That's what does it. Okay, well, we will be back next week, of course, and maybe this Neulab 2 will be something we feature, but obviously I'll be on the lookout for new grids and stuff like that. I do rely on Inworld increasingly now to, go to the section for latest places, and there's sometimes hot places and stuff, and instead of going next, I try and get to the listings at the end and work backwards, because sometimes at the end that you find these long forgotten regions, if they're still there. Most of the regions that were on OS Grid are now showing us online again, region-wise, but not all of them. Inworld actually scans every 20 minutes to check a region's actually online. So I did notice today quite a few are still offline. But that's okay. So, we're all talked out with that. I think I'd thank Tech Wizard right hand man, James Atlloud. Thank you, James.
Yeah, sure thing, Mel, and thanks for bringing us together.
I hope today's seat was comfortable.
Very, very comfortable.
In the absence of any Safari sits last week, you must have been desperate to get your ass on that chair.
That's right. That's right.
And all the radioactive feet as well. And thank you also, of course, to my co-host, Tosha, Tyran.
Well, you're very welcome, Mel.
Yeah.
Thanks to you.
We'll have to tell the people at MDM that it's Tyran, not Tyron. I think.
I don't.
There's a movie star, isn't it? It's got an E on the end, though. It's something Tyrone.
Yeah, that's true. But I have nothing to do with them.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it's goodbye from me, Mark Bones, as well. So I wish you all a very good morning, a very good afternoon, a very good evening, and indeed a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. And for this week, at least, it's a wrap.